His Excellency Don Federico Palomera Goethe, the Ambassador of Spain, His Excellency Anthony Phillipson, the British High Commissioner, Ms. Tay Ai Ching, Assistant CEO of the National Library Board, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to one and all. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Ying Ching. I'll be your MC for tonight. On behalf of National Library Board, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you as we gather here today to celebrate the memory of two literary giants, Miguel de Cervantes and William Shakespeare. We are very honored to have with us this evening the Ambassador of Spain, His Excellency Don Federico Palomera Goethe, and the High Commissioner, His Excellency Anthony Phillipson. This program would not have been possible without their support, and the National Library Board would like to thank the Embassy of Spain, the British High Commission, and the British High Council for being part of such a meaningful collaboration. Today, the 23rd of April, is an extremely symbolic date for world literature, as it was the date of the deaths of Miguel de Cervantes and William Shakespeare some 400 years ago. It also marks the date of UNESCO's World Book and Copyright Day, which seeks to pay tribute to books and their authors, as well as to encourage people from all over the world to discover the pleasure of reading. So it's apt for us to be here, gathered today, the 23rd of April, to celebrate the memory of Cervantes and Shakespeare. To return to the time of Shakespeare and Cervantes, first up, we have a 16th century dance performance by the students of the LaSalle Musical Theatre Department, quickly choreographed by Mrs. Asa Palomera. Before we begin, here's a little trivia about the performance. I was told that the entire dance was put together in less than 20 minutes, and searching for the costumes actually took much longer than that. And the performers just had their exams prior to the event, so I'm sure glad that they made it on time. So without further ado, let's welcome Ms. Kimberly Chan, Ms. Samantha Jean Kwok, and Mr. Renford Ong, who will be performing an English period dance to the tune of Green Leaves. Let's welcome the dancers on stage. For that very lovely performance. Next up, our Excellencies have a very special treat lined up for us. They will be presenting an extract of the play by Mrs. Palomera, The Curious Lives of Shakespeare and Cervantes, which was originally staged in Edinburgh and London. They have sportingly dressed up for the occasion, as you will see in a bit. It's a near impossible task to find the perfect costumes, but in the end, they managed to find 2 jackets. Of course, I understand that the ambassadors may be a little disappointed that they're not decked out in full costume, but, you know, as they say in theatre, the show must go on. The Excellencies will take us through an extreme cut version of the history and lives of the 2 literary giants, Cervantes, in 15 minutes. Without further ado, let's welcome the Excellencies on stage. Your Excellencies, please.
De cuyo nombre no quiero acordarme, vivió no mucho tiempo un viejo hidalgo de los de lanza en astillero, adarga antigua, rocín flaco y galgo corredor.
On the 23rd of April, 1616, William Shakespeare and Miguel de Cervantes, 2 of the greatest writers the world has ever known, passed away.
Yet, in a twist not unworthy of the comedy of errors, though the date coincided, the day in reality did not, an irony that both authors would have keenly appreciated. England was under the Julian calendar, while Spain had already switched to the Gregorian calendar, which was 11 days ahead.
The lives of Cervantes and Shakespeare have many similarities, though they sometimes seem to be an inverted reflection of one another. Shakespeare grew rich.
Cervantes remained poor. Both men lived in a season of glory and power for their countries, but
while Shakespeare's Protestant England was waxing,
Cervantes' Catholic Spain was waning. Cervantes collected taxes to have the Spanish Armada attack England,
while Shakespeare had occasion to celebrate its defeat.
Their lives were spent in countries bitterly opposed.
Yet Shakespeare had the opportunity of reading Cervantes' work, as English was the first language into which his masterpiece, Don Quixote, was translated.
Cervantes, sadly, did not have the chance to read the works of Shakespeare, as works from heretic countries were banned in Philip's Spain.
Both men might even have met, or at least Anthony Burgess toyed with the idea in his short story, A Meeting in Valladolid, the city where Cervantes lived in his old age. Sir, it is an honor to meet you. What gives?
Who is this man? What is he doing here?
I am William Shakespeare, sir.
¿Qué?
Will, they call me in England. I had read your masterpiece, and what a masterpiece. Signor, Caballero.
Caballero.
I made a comedy from it, the story of Cardenio, and I would love to work on your Don Quixote.
¿Don Quijote? ¡Ah, Don Quijote! ¿Lo has leído? ¿Qué sabes de él? Dime.
Perchance we can talk about it a bit. So far, all of my stories are happening in Venice, Rome, Denmark, but never in Spain, Spain being the enemy and all. Let it be known to you that I have not travelled outside of England. How then, you ask me, you who've travelled wide and far, seeing, tasting the world where I've not been to? Well, sir, I imagine. The things one can imagine, you know. When it happens in my mind, my fingers do the work, then there they are in the theatres. Teatro, tragedia, commedia. Human emotion in art has no boundaries. That's understood everywhere, no?
Teatro? Habla cristiano. Comedia? With your heretic babbling.
Oh, why, sir, can't you speak English?
Habla cristiano.
Oh, it's as Christian a language as any.
Anda, vete.
Ah, what a pity. An impossible old man, just like his Don Quixote. A cranky, crazy old buzzard. There's nothing to be gotten here in person. I shall just read your book to meet you again in it where you speak Christian English. Adios, I'm off.
My father was a surgeon, a profession that was then little better than that of a barber. I was born in September 1547, and my father was more covered in blood than I was. You see, he had been bleeding a fat squire when the midwife rushed in to announce my arrival to this world, and the open vein splattered vein all over him. His finger that caressed my face let red smudge, perhaps an omen of things to come. How he laughed when he held me. He was always laughing, even when he had to go to jail for debt, owed as big as his laughter.
My father was a glove maker, but it was from his loins that I was born in April 1564 in Stratford-on-Avon. He smelled of the tannery when he held me in his arms. No roses for me, no laughter either. He was rather morose, as if rehearsing for his future role as a councilman. Maybe he cleared his throat to swallow his pleasure and pride at having a son. Who can really tell?
Both families would suffer highs and lows in their fortunes, but it was the Cervantes who had the worst part. Nevertheless, both offspring studied, Miguel possibly with the Jesuits.
Will was in the public school, though both would lack a degree of formal education.
Rosa, 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 Rosai, Rosai, Rosa.
When I arrived in London a few years later, it was absolutely filthy. The streets were slushed with stinking matters.
The Spaniards were not shy about throwing their mierda over the balcony either.
And as I walked around town, the contents of chamber pots from the night before of anyone who slept on a higher floor than the street rained down on my person. Not only urine, but also, well, other matters that you can very well imagine.
But we had a much more advanced sewer system after 700 years of Arab domination.
Everyone in London was merrier than in the country, perhaps because we drank beer for water, ale for breakfast, lunch and dinner. All day long we were euphoric, and all day long we were uplifted and high in spirit. Practically everyone, even the children. And the food, oh, mutton chops, deer pies, the perfume of meat to be had in London. Oh, I like it here.
Cheese, chickpeas, the spices from Arabia, cumin, garlic.
That's a strange smell reeking into my nostrils. That's not quite so fashionable.
It's probably the smell of sour milk from across the English Channel. The God's food from Mexico, chocolate. Not that I could ever have afforded it more than once.
And of course we had this, the newfangled weed from Virginia.
Cuba.
Cigars.
Cigars, yes.
Oh, I really do like it here. And my plays are doing really rather well. Much Ado About Nothing, Romeo and Juliet, instant success. Quite a fantastic love story, and I hugely enjoyed writing it. Although I cried a little while killing them both at the end. But I think it's a story that's going to live on for a long time, I reckon.
Yes, West Side Story. Maria, just met a girl named Maria. I also tried my hand at writing for the theater. Constant failure. So I had to turn to tax collecting to scrape a living.
Meanwhile, it wasn't just Romeo and Juliet. Taming of the Shrew, another lasting success.
Yes, kiss me, Kate, brush up your Shakespeare. Start quoting him now. Brush up your Shakespeare, and the ladies you will walk. Wow.
And another one, King Lear. That one's going to run and run.
Run by Akira Kurosawa. My tax figures did not tally, so I was thrown in jail once again.
My father was made a gentleman, and I naturally as well. And my poor son Hammett could have been the firstborn gentleman, but he died just months before. So later on, 10 years after arriving in London, after all the success I'd had in the theatre, the Globe was mine, Dick Burbage was the star, and I even had a mistress. My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. And if snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. And if hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes is there more delight than in the breath than from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go. My mistress, when she walks, treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare.
The truth is that when his mind was completely gone, he had the strangest thought any lunatic in the world ever had, which was that it seemed reasonable and necessary to him